10 Reasons to Love, Philly Joe Jones. Joseph Rudolph, aka Philly Joe Jones, was born on July 15th, 1923 and passed away on August 30th, 1985. He was a prolific American jazz drummer and one of the most influential drummers of today. As a child, Philly Joe appeared as a featured tap dancer on The Kitty Show on Philadelphia radio station WIP. He served in the Army during World War II. And in 1947, he became the house drummer at Cafe Society in New York City. Philly Joe came to worldwide recognition in 1955 when he joined up with the Miles Davis Quintet, and he played with that band for 4 years, playing on many classic records for Prestige and Columbia, some of which we'll talk about here. And then after Miles, Philly Joe went on to work with many jazz greats, including Bill Evans and Hank Mobley, and he also led his own band. In the late 60s and early 70s, Philly Joe moved to Europe, but he kept playing with Hank Mobley, Mal Waldron, Archie Shepp, and many others. Philly Joe spent the later part of his life touring mostly with Bill Evans from 1976 to 1978, and he also made a record with Red Garland in 1977. Unfortunately, Philly Joe passed away from a heart attack in 1985. But there's a ton of music to listen to, and we're going to dive into 10 Reasons to Love Philly Joe right now. 10 Reasons to Love Philly Joe Jones.
There's a lot more than that. I think we're going to need a part 2 for this one.
Yeah.
There's, he was prolific, man. There's a lot of great stuff to listen to, but we'll at least get a great start with this one.
Yeah. So. For me, Philly Joe is like sort of like Blakey, where you can kind of just pick a record and you're going to find something cool on it. It was
for sure.
really hard for me to pick.
I was telling Throck, I was having a really hard time picking the Philly Joe stuff. There's just so much good stuff.
None of us picked the obvious stuff like Milestones or anything.
Yeah, I just
there's a lot of stuff. There's so much to choose from,
I almost picked Gone from...
I almost picked that too.
From Porgy and Bess.
I almost picked that too.
I was like, it's a little obvious, but it's so great.
But it's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we have to have an appendix for this one. And it is actually 11 Reasons to Love Philly Joe.
I guess technically there's 11.
Well, let's just dive in. I mean, I'm excited to check out some of this music. I really personally mostly know the Miles Davis Quintet stuff. So that's what and next to Max, I probably played along to more Philly Joe than anybody else.
Yeah. Well, this is relatively early in his career. So Philly Joe was from Philadelphia. I think he was born July 15th of 1923, I think. And he grew up in Philadelphia and started playing around Philly. And then he, as a young, I think he might have been in his late teens or early 20s, he started kind of making pilgrimages up to New York to meet people and hang out and and play. He spent a lot of time with Max Roach and Cozy Cole. He learned a lot from those guys. I think for me, historically among like drumming in the history of drumming and jazz drumming, the thing that's interesting for me is I think he's one of the first of the drummers to kind of take the the template that Papa Joe and Kluke and Max, maybe Big Sid, like guys like that kind of created. He's one of the first to take that and then create his own personal style with that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he took this idea of four-way coordination, like comping behind soloists, using the snare drum and bass drum, playing, extended solos using the song form, which he was big on. He took all of that, which those earlier guys developed, and he created like his own. I mean, Philly Joe's style. I mean, there's things that he does that, are they're his, and a lot of it is kind of subtle stuff, but it makes a big difference in the music. And I think he was one. I think you could make the same argument about Art Blakey, even though he was sort of contemporaries with Max. He kind of did that too. He took that template and created this really unique style that's all his. This first record is from a very interesting date. Miles Davis Collector's Items is what the LP was known as, and it features both Sonny Rollins and Charlie Parker, both playing tenor saxophone on this. Walter Bishop, Percy Heath, and Philly Joe. And we're going to hear the two sort of sets of trading from both of these takes of this tune, The Serpent's Tooth.
So we'll start with the master take.
Sure. Yep.
All right. Was this his first record with Miles? Sounds early.
I believe it was his first with Miles. This is from 53. Yeah. So this is also kind of relatively young for his career, you know. Wasn't his first record date, but it was close. And you can already kind of, his style is there, you know.
So many of those licks, it's kind of become the vocabulary.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for those who aren't really familiar, you know, Philly Joe was a very big fan of Charles Wilcoxon, who was a rudimental drummer who wrote a bunch of very important books. The one that he liked the most was, of course, Modern Rudimental Swing Solos, which is a great book. He studied with Charlie Wilcoxon. They were friends.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, and yeah, he comes out of that. He was a real devotee of rudimental drumming, and that, you know, that there's a whole tradition of that, especially like in the Midwest part of the United States. You know, drummers like Jeff Hamilton was like a rudimental champion when he was a kid, you know, entering contests and stuff like that. Philly Joe comes out of that, but he took that stuff and really, you know, he plays it so personally, and he really used it as the basis for kind of his, you know, improvisatory language, kind of, you know.
So what is different about this alt take?
Well, let's play it in here.
All right, here we go. Faster.
It was interesting. He plays some of the same types of things, you know, but there's still a lot of newness, you know. Again, that's sort of a nice example of how he uses that language, you know. Plus, he just had great hands. I mean, he got such a good sound, man.
His snare drum sound is so distinct.
Man,
was there anybody doing that accent on 4 before him? I feel like that's such a Philly Joe thing. Like he does it almost every time.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't.
Blakey doing that maybe?
Yeah. But again, you know, he had, you know, Philly Joe just had a way of playing it. For him, for so many of these guys, it's not so much what they do, it's how they do it.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
And he had, like, we were talking on the phone the other night about that, Throck, just like the personality and everything. He was a very theatrical person. You know, he was a character, you know. And that comes out in his playing.
Yeah.
Which is cool, you know.
The bass drum sounds kind of awesome on there too.
Yeah.
kind of big and
Big,
like
yeah. Yeah, what do you think? I mean, he's using a 22. He has to be.
Probably.
It sounds
Back
like
then,
it.
yeah.
It sounds good though.
Was it in Art Taylor's book where he talked about if he didn't play on out front with Miles would give him crap about it? Like if he tried to play like quieter, Miles would give him a bunch of grief.
I think
Was
that's
that in
from
Art
that.
Taylor's
I
book?
think. Yeah. God, I haven't read that in a long time.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Philly Joe's he was also I think when he's a kid he was a tap dancer.
I feel like all these old guys could tap dance, man.
Man, that was a thing. I mean, you know, dance.
That was awesome.
Dance used to be a big part of American culture. Everybody danced.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, in the 30s, you went out to go dancing.
Of course.
And now it's so not a part of our culture. You know, it really is.
Especially as it relates to jazz music.
Yeah, for sure. Jazz was dance music for the first, 50 years it was around.
Yeah.
You know?
I kind of want to go chronologically now. So
Okay.
I can't help you with that.
it looks like maybe
You're on your own, Mike.
They're just tapping out. Yeah, I can't do that.
I think Round Midnight might be the next one. 56.
Yep.
Or Bye Bye Blackbird off of Round Midnight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me get past this ad. All right. What part of the track did you say here?
We want to get It's like the second chorus of the piano solo
So
where he switches cymbals.
6 minutes in.
That sounds about right.
All right. Okay, so our next pick is Bye Bye Blackbird off of Miles Davis Around Midnight. Why'd you pick this one?
So he does something on this recording that's very sort of it's one of his little signatures. And for me, a lot of the most important things that Philly Joe did were sort of within the band, within the rhythm section. He had these little things that he would do that would help to elevate the music, and this is one of the classic ones. So let's listen to it, then we'll talk about it. So if you listen closely to that, when they get to the top of the form, he does two things. So Red Garland moves from playing more single note lines in the right hand to playing a block chord style solo, which was like a hallmark of his style of playing. So Philly Joe switches to a riveted cymbal, but if you listen closely, you can hear him tapping very lightly on the snare drum, just quarter notes. He's kind of feathering the snare drum. And it gives it this sense, it sort of brings the rhythm, it sort of solidifies the groove a little, and it gives it a slightly different feeling. And for a point like this in the music, it works great, you know? He did stuff like this all the time that would sort of... Now, this was a regular working group, so, you know, he probably knew, because Red Garland, that block chord thing was that was something he did all the time. So Philly Joe probably thought like, well, he might do that in this solo. So he was probably ready for it. So at the top of the chorus, he switches cymbals and he does that to sort of solidify the groove and showcase what Red is doing. Because he's not really doing anything but that. He's just laying in the cut, as they say, you know. And it has a great effect on the music. So that's what I was hoping to talk about. Yeah, a lot of what he did was very subtle when it comes to different things within a group.
That rhythm section in particular fascinates me because they sometimes play like a big band as a rhythm section.
Totally.
Like their shout choruses and
yeah,
stuff.
Man. Yep.
Hits just come out of nowhere. You're like, how'd they know to do that?
Yeah. Playing together, you know, they're developing all that. But yeah, the way the three of those guys play together was really, really great. And it's great we have all these records that we can, you know, enjoy them on.
Well, my first pick came out in 1956. This is from the Prestige sessions with the Miles Davis Quintet, Woody and You, off of Relaxin'.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what to pick. I just wanted to pick something where he was playing a short, badass solo in this.
He does that.
Because that whole collection. Yeah, if you just...
Cooking, working, steaming, and relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I used to just every day I would just go through one of those records, play along to it.
Oh, yeah.
Repeat the cycle.
Totally, yeah.
I got to get through another ad here. Okay, this comes in at 3 minutes and 38 seconds into this track. Pretty sure I transcribed this probably incorrectly. What the hell is the sticking on that last thing with the stick shots?
It could have been a few. Yeah.
I know I have to play a little bit of that again. What did I say? 3 minutes in. No clue.
Yeah,
I tried, but I couldn't figure it out.
Really?
I just it felt weird to like cross stick and go to the floor tom. I don't know, man. You have to show me that one.
It's easy.
That's easy.
It's not. Other stuff he played is very difficult to figure out some of it. That's such a great recording of that.
Yeah, I love that collection because it just sounds like a band in a room.
That's what it was.
Yeah, it's just so cool.
Yeah, it is.
All right, let's keep going. That was 56. So Sonny Rollins, Sorry with the Fringe on top.
Oh yeah,
Off Nuke's Time.
So this is another one where we can it's really instructive, especially for any of you younger drummers that are just getting into this, and you've talked about, or you've heard people talk about the idea of playing the bass drum, feathering the bass drum. This is a perfect recording to sort of hear how that should sound without a bass player, because this is just a duo performance with Sonny Rollins and Philly Joe. So we're going to hear the beginning up into Sonny Rollins' solo, and I chose this clip because we can hear there's a little introduction, and then they play the melody, and then they start improvising, and you can hear him when the melody starts. He's playing in 2. You can hear him doing that on the bass drum. When they go to the bridge, you can hear him feathering on all 4 beats. So you can really get an idea, especially as I said, if you're new to this, you can get an idea where the bass drum should sit in the mix of everything that you're doing. Because I hear a lot of younger drummers say, like, well, how soft or how loud should it be? Well, this is a great example. So if you have some headphones, you might want to get them for this one, or listen on some decent speakers so you can really sort of hear this.
From the top.
All right, here we go.
It's a masterclass.
So what you can hear on the head, on the melody, where he's playing time on the hi-hat on the A sections, you can hear him. He's playing the same kind of rhythm that a bass player would be playing. He's playing ba 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 be boo be ba be boo ba da da, which is the same kind of rhythm that a bassist would be playing. But again, listening to this, especially if you can listen on some headphones or good speakers, you can, as I said before, you can hear where the bass drum is sitting in the mix of everything else he's doing. And I think that's really instructive for drummers. If you're new to this and you're not quite sure how it should really sound, there you go.
And the way he let that first bridge kind of settle before he got into it.
Totally.
So cool.
Yeah, that's the thing about feathering, is that, you give yourself time. It sort of moves in and out of the mix of everything as you're using the bass drum to comp.
Well, the next one on your list is from 1958. Let's go there. Johnny Griffin.
Brock, where you at, man? Where's all your stuff?
All later stuff.
Mine's all from like 2024.
It's all 60.
Oh, some new Philly Joe stuff?
Yeah, brand new.
Wow, I can't wait to hear that. Oh, man. Yeah. So
I can wait to hear that. Johnny Griffin, Woody and You sextet record. Oh, it's another version of Woody and You.
Yep.
Nice.
This is a great record. I mean, there's
Which record is this?
It's just called Johnny Griffin Sextet
Okay.
on Riverside. This is some really great Philly Joe. Let's play this one and then we'll talk about it. So I chose that because sorry, that's just the end of the So yeah, we got some nice trading in there, but the reason I chose that was for that introduction. I think by the mid 50s, like the whole idea of Afro-Cuban music was now or then a part of jazz, right? So you had, as a drummer, you had to be able to play some of that stuff. And Philly Joe had his own unique way of sort of playing those rhythms. In that introduction, you can hear a bunch of his sort of signature things. Whether he's playing, he would love to superimpose that 6/8 rhythm over stuff, but a lot of his Afro-Cuban stuff stems from like a traditional rumba sort of groove. But again, he had his own way of doing it. Like it's similar to Art Blakey, like doing the pitch bends and stuff like that, but he had his own way of doing it, and it was great. Like that was definitely I think a big part of his playing.
That sounded like the closest to Blakey of his stuff that I've heard.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You could have fooled me, and I would have guessed that was Blakey. Just by the pitch bend stuff.
Yeah. There's definitely. I mean, they sort of. I mean, they came up together in many ways.
And then later,
even though Art was a little bit older,
I would have said Max Roach. I hear more connection to Max at the end of it.
Yeah,
that's a cool track. I don't know that record at all.
That's a great record, and he sounds really, really good on that stuff.
Now we're at one of Throck's picks.
Here we go.
We've entered the 60s. You want to do Luana?
Whatever you want to play.
All right,
ooh, Freddie.
Freddie Hubbard from Hubcap. The track is Luana. It must be from the top because I didn't write any specific timing. Is that what you wanted from the top?
I think so.
Okay. So we're gonna...
Yeah. all, I noticed this earlier, but I figured it was only going to keep getting. We're going to keep adding on to these. But man, we're getting. Aside from Philly Joe, who's the reason we're here talking about this, we're getting to hear Miles and Sonny Rollins and Johnny Griffin and Freddie Hubbard. Are you kidding me? Like, it's like
that arrangement of that tune
it's
is
so beautiful,
gorgeous, man.
And I think what hit me hard enough that I wanted to include this was, I mean, that whole beginning, he's only playing the hi-hats, and there's so much. It's so amazing. It's almost like, imagine if somebody just gave you only a hi-hat, told you to make it work. You'd think, it's like, what am I going to do with this, you know? And it's like, and then when he starts to bring in this snare drum just a little bit at the end of that phrase, he just plays these little things that are so simple, but like perfect for the music. And then he navigates these little feel changes so beautifully, you know? It just all makes so much sense, and it's not easy to do. Even whenever at the beginning of the intro, when the stuff starts to get to these longer tones, and he's opening the hi-hats and just kind of getting these different sounds out of the hi-hat.
Very dramatic.
Really amazing, and feels so good. So it's just a reminder, like, I mean, I need the reminder more than anybody to play less, but man, he's, I mean, it's amazing. And the music's just so great.
Yeah.
You know?
I love the way he navigates arrangements to make it almost sound like he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's hitting it everything. It's like he's not like playing it like a part. It's got this like.
Yeah, I like that about Blakey too. Like but like Philly might be a little more slippery in some ways. You know, like Blakey's I don't want to say it's cleaner because Philly's so clean with his chops, but you know what I mean. His hands are so good.
Yeah.
But they both navigate the arrangements so well.
Yeah.
And set stuff up and you know, short notes versus long notes, dynamics, the whole thing. But it's quite amazing.
I think there's a good lesson in that though, because he does have great hands, but he never lets that mess with the music.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, of course.
And that's the thing. It's like, you know, there's so many people who play so well, but musically it's kind of like, you know. But with him, like he does have great hands, but when he's playing the music, he's playing the music.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a different thing.
Yeah. It definitely helps with his clarity. Like
totally.
His ride cymbal beat is so clean.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It just has the feel and the sound, man. That's a great record, man.
I don't know that one really either. Well, I have one more it's also from 1961. This is Blues Number 2 from Someday My Prince Will Come, Miles Davis Quintet. This was Philly Joe guesting on one track, apparently playing on Jimmy Cobb's drums, like just showed up and played.
Yep.
Hutch actually was kind of hit me to this when I interviewed him.
Yep.
I never realized that. I just liked the record, and I was like, oh, that track's cool. Oh, it's Philly Joe.
No, it's great. I love this because of that. It's really cool. Yep.
So I just picked like the trades, but the whole performance, for him to come back to the band, I don't know how long he was out, a couple of years, and this to be like his last thing with the band, it's pretty special, I think. So this is 2 minutes in.
Cool.
So this is Philly Joe sitting in with his old band. Just old friends having fun, right?
Yeah, pretty much on that.
I wonder where Jimmy Cobb was. I wish he was still around to talk about it. Was he in the room? Was he not there?
Oh, he's probably there.
I would think, right?
He's probably there.
And why did it make the record, the original record? That's a bonus take, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. I like it because it's just so loose. It's like,
Totally,
let's
yeah.
just go for it.
Yep.
He's doing stuff in the studio that's kind of silly, like choking the cymbals. That's like a performance thing.
Yeah.
Like, why do that in the studio?
Yeah. He made it musical. That's a good recording, man.
He always played bigger drums, right? You guys know? I think he always played like a 13, 16, 22 kind of vibe. I don't think I've ever seen him on anything smaller.
Not always. I mean, it depends. I mean, I think a lot of times, Philly Joe played whatever he could get a hold of. But yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys, especially in the 50s, the smaller drums hadn't really come in as a
Right.
like a mainstay quite yet.
Wow, that's a good research project. What was the first bop kit on record?
Probably Max.
Mm.
I think he was one of the first to kind of play smaller drums like
All right. His signature snare drum was a piccolo, right?
pretty regularly, But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Do some digging.
Yeah.
So, Rock, we've got another Freddie Hubbard,
Let's do that.
Asiatic Rays from
Oh,
Going
man.
Up.
This is a great record.
Also from 1961. This seems to be a hot year for Philly Joe. Anything you want to say about why you picked it before we listen?
Let's listen to it.
Okay.
Just some more killing music. Really, the comping is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Kind of, I mean, a little understated. Not understated, but it's not super crazy active. But it's, I don't know, just these little jabs in there that just feel great. It swings super hard.
Yeah.
I'm
So
just saying
much
really
energy.
basic stuff,
Yeah.
but it's,
No, it's true.
that's kind of, it's amazing.
He had a great way, like all these guys, as far as comping goes. He knew how to wait for phrases. He knew how to set phrases up. He knew how to help end phrases. Like he was so great at that. All these masters were good at that. You kind of had to be, but that's that art of listening and the art of playing with people.
Yep.
That's really kind of what we're hearing from, I think.
And there's a nice urgency to the to like the upbeat comping that doesn't interrupt the flow of the groove. The groove never gets disturbed. It just feels really great.
Yep.
I wish we had more footage of him from this era of his career, just to see how he approached the instrument.
Oh,
I
man,
have a
yeah.
hard time, like, I visualize something totally different than I'm sure it actually is. For me, it's like his left hand is like this big block of wood coming down.
I mean, the videos that are available, there are actually a few good ones where you can, even though they're later, you get a really good idea, of how he played physically. You know, he had great hands, and he was very, there was definitely a performative element to him, to what he did. But again, it's like, as whatever it is he was doing, it's like the music was still, even if he was, sort of performing, the music never suffered.
We've got 2 left, and they're both from 1962. Is that right?
My stuff was all from a pretty small window.
Yep. So we want to do, let's stay with Rock's pick here. Donald Byrd, Hello Bright Sunflower, from the
Walk.
Catwalk.
I put caulk. The Catwalk, 1962. You want to listen to it first?
Yeah.
This is another great one. Yeah.
Pretty drumming, man.
Absolutely. He was a brush master. He actually wrote a book on brush playing, which is really good. It's interesting. He was a great brush player. He was into it. He had a lot of his signature things that he would do, signature brush strokes.
He's getting the sound he's getting
great.
I mean, I don't have that shit together.
Yeah, the accent sounds.
I try to emulate some of that, but man, it's like a clinic in how to do it, and the stuff with the left foot, the short notes and the open notes, it just fits so beautiful with the tune.
That's Papa Joe.
Yeah,
that's totally coming out of Papa Joe. But again, in his own way, like he's created this style within that's so recognizable. Like if you're into jazz and jazz drumming, like that's Philly Joe Jones.
Yeah.
You would never mistaken that for Papa Joe.
Yeah.
Which is cool. That's a testament to his artistry, that he was able to, to do that. Plus back then, you had to really have something unique to say to stand out, and he did. It's great.
It's killing.
This has been awesome because now I'm hearing the connection. Like for me, Philly Joe's just Philly Joe, and he always sounds like Philly Joe.
Sure.
Now I'm really hearing all the connections, and it kind of fills in a lot of the gaps that I wasn't clear on.
Man.
Where did this dude come from?
Yeah.
'Cause you can pick him out instantly. But
Sure.
now like you can hear it. There's some Blakey, there's some Max, there's some Papa Joe.
Absolutely.
I assume the Cozy Cole was the chops stuff. Kind of.
Sure. I mean, Cozy was a great teacher. He had a drumming school with Gene Krupa for a while, and he comes out of he's a totally sort of for that time period, meaning like the mid late 50s for the most part. He was a perfectly logical extension of what had just sort of come before him drumming wise, which is cool. It's like you said, it's really cool to hear that, hear those connections and realize like, yeah, man, none of these, even Tony and Elvin, like they don't just, they didn't just go poof.
Yeah, they didn't just, yeah.
You know?
It's all coming from somewhere.
Yeah, it's coming from the lineage.
Yeah, totally.
Which is great. I mean, for me, that's why I love this era of drumming, because all these guys who played in this style, they were able to play in that style but still retain their individuality, which is really hard to do,
Yeah.
Especially like, styles of music have all these things that are a part of it that make it what it is. So you kind of have to do those things to play in that style. But to do that and still maintain a real sense of individuality is really awesome, I think. And he's one of the great examples,
I tried to republish that brush book.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, but it was owned by Premiere of all things.
That makes sense. He endorsed Premiere.
We couldn't get them to give us the rights. Like there was no one at Premiere that even knew they owned it.
That's crazy.
So it's still out there.
Yeah,
Anyone at
I
Premiere.
have my dad's copy of that book. It's nice.
It's a really cool book.
It's small. It's not that big of a
It's not that big, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's got all his great, he had all these little strokes and things he would do, that were great, unique.
We're going to end with
Bill Evans?
Yeah, the Bill Evans, You and the Night and the Music.
Yeah, so this is, Philly Joe and Bill Evans had a long friendship and musical relationship. They started playing together in the late 50s, and they were playing together in the early 80s. Philly Joe died in, I think, August of 85. So they had a long association, and this was from the great Interplay record from that year. And this is...
What year is it?
62.
62, okay.
Yeah. This is another great recording of him playing brushes, so we'll get a little more of a taste of that with this one. That's just the intro.
He's got his stuff. He's got his things. It's like you're waiting for that version of that thing, but it's always cool.
I know. He's like a great actor. Like, you know the line he's going to deliver, but you're waiting on it because it's going to be great, Yeah, he had Philly Joe lived in Europe from like 67 to about 72. And then he kind of came back and forth. He spent a lot of time back in the States, in Philadelphia. I know in the mid-late 70s, he was in Philadelphia quite a bit back then. And then he started his great Tad Dameron tribute band called Dameronia, which he made a couple great later records with that band and a bunch of other stuff in the 70s, which is interesting to hear him later in his career, because it's still great, but it's, it's a slightly different version of him in some ways, you know.
Man, where do we send people next? I think just pick a record, any of these records.
Yeah.
It's like whatever.
Yeah, do yourself a favor and listen to these whole recordings, because as Dave said earlier, man, you know, the music is just great. I mean, it's really something. And you know, as great as his soloing was, I think to really get him, you know, you got to hear him do all of it. You know, the way he played within the band was so great, you know.
Yeah.
And I think we got to do a part 2, because there's so many other recordings we got to listen to.
I know. Now I'm thinking of all the other ones I should have picked. I'm like,
yeah, I know. There's so many. You know, it's like 10 reasons to love pasta. It's like I got 10,000 reasons to love pasta, right, Throck?
That's right. We're gonna love some couple hours here.
Absolutely.
That's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, make sure you give us a 5-star rating, write us a review on Apple Music or Google Podcasts, wherever you're getting the show. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit us with a comment, maybe some of your favorite Philly Joe records that we should include in part 2. And until next time, go check out some of these records, play along, learn how to swing, and we'll see you then.